this is probably the most talked about movie at the moment, and it's dividing opinion. Learned critics seem to scoff at it and hate it, whereas it is a popular classic. And I'm delighted, perhaps for a change, maybe not, to come down on the side of the general public, because there's a lot really good about this film.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in?
Welcome to Damo's No-Nonsense Film Reviews. Damo, this week we're going to be reviewing Mary Poppins Returns, Bird Box, and Bumblebee.
It's a good thing you come along when you did, Mary Poppins.
How'd you do that?
Do what?
Damo, Mary Poppins Returns, what did you think?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. For some reason, just didn't think it would be my type of film, but I really enjoyed it, and mainly thanks to Emily Blunt. She is mesmeric in it, I would go so far as to say.
Wow.
She really, and perhaps it's to the detriment of the overall film, but it's all about her. And she's in the title role, so why not? Just amazing to look at. Her accent, which is a very difficult one to get right. It's this kind of Queen's accent that would have been used in the original. She has it totally on point. Very, very impressive. But she looks amazing in it. She commands the screen. She commands the cast. For that alone, it was well worth watching. Where it fell down for me is that the three kids in it who play quite a role, and I don't know whether it was that they were miscast or whether they were misdirected, but they just didn't quite hit the spot. And I've heard other people say this as well. Peter Brown, also on Damo's No Nonsense Film Reviews on Facebook, commented on this as well, is that the supporting cast, it should have been way more developed character-wise and should have been stronger performances from them, but wasn't. But that's just a side point. I mean, there's some great song and dance routines in it, some very strong songs, and there's one particular song and dance sequence with the Learys, they're called. They're basically those who light the lamps of London. They're kind of a group of tradespeople, and they break into song and dance with Mary and the kids in a London park, and it's absolutely brilliant. Wonderful to watch.
Like the chimney sweepers in the original.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, a lot of commonality with them, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm a very big fan of Emily Blunt.
Is there anything she's been in that hasn't been good? I don't think so, because my favourite film of the year, 2018, A Quiet Place. And again, many thanks to her for that getting there, I would say.
Is it the same story?
And again, this is where it falls down a bit, is that at the start you've got this farcical, the plot is a bit farcical, is that the family that she's coming to nanny, which is one of the kids that she nannied in the original, is now grown up and has these three kids. The wife has passed away and things are falling down somewhat, and he's forgotten to pay the mortgage for 3 months. So he works in the bank that he took the mortgage out from, and the bank say, because he says, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to pay the last few months. Sorry about that. I'll get some money together now and sort that out. The bank say, oh no, sorry, under the terms of the contract, if you fall behind, you have to pay the entire amount of the mortgage back straight away, which is a complete load of nonsense. So it turns out that they have shares, that they've been left shares, but can't find the certificate. So they're searching for the certificate the whole time. And again, in the real world, it doesn't matter if you've lost your certificate. It's that a replacement can be found, that can be sorted out. But no, apparently it was a bearer certificate, and if you didn't have it, you were toast. So there was a lot of that had to be taken with a great pinch of salt. Also, Dick Van Dyke came in at the end.
No way.
Oh,
deadly.
And again, he was utterly shoveled into it. They didn't think very much about how can we subtly put him in. Very eye-rolling. It's like, really? He basically was the previous chairman of the bank who really owned it and then came along to put some manners on the current chairman. But he was literally in it for 45 seconds or a minute. And Jessica Fletcher, is that her name?
Angela Lansbury.
Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
They both do actually went off and did spin-offs of TV crime dramas. So yeah, go on.
Bizarre, yeah. And I constantly call her Jessica Fletcher. But
93 years old now.
Wow. And she was in it. And her cameo was brilliant in it. She was just a nice old lady in the park, balloon lady.
That's mad. She was in The Grinch as well.
Mm-hmm. She's now the oldest female actor ever to appear in a Disney movie. 93.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing performance by Emily Blunt. Some brilliant visuals, some great song and dance routines, plot farcical at times, but overall, very good. 7.5 out of 10.
If you hear something in the woods, you tell me. If you hear something in the water, you tell me. But under no circumstance are you allowed to take off your blindfold.
You hear that? The creatures.
Bird Box, Netflix classic.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most talked about movie at the moment, and it's dividing opinion. Learned critics seem to scoff at it and hate it, whereas it is a popular classic. And I'm delighted, perhaps for a change, maybe not, to come down on the side of the general public, because there's a lot really good about this. There hasn't been a film for years and years that has created so much tension and excitement. So it's one of those end of the world, Armageddon type films, very hard to recreate. Most fail miserably. I'm thinking about the Stand miniseries, the best book I've ever read, but just hopelessly inadequate in terms of bringing it to the screen. But, and again, a lot of people comparing it with A Quiet Place, and it has that in common in that it's an end of the world scenario. But apart from that, there's not too much else that you would compare like for like with. So yeah, so really, and I think that's the important point, is that the fact it generates so much tension, you can overlook other things, like there are gaping plot holes there, and there are certain things that happen that are very strange and very random. But in general, the sense of tension that it generates and your investment in the story and how it ends is very heightened indeed.
Sandra Bullock was amazing in it.
She was.
Her performance and the tension in which she gives it, and keeps you captured in. Like, she must have been exhausted after that.
Yeah. Physically and mentally, definitely. It would have taken a lot out.
Like a woman in her 50s, and she plays a character, I presume, in early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. She is excellently cast. You well believe she is. The kids were well cast.
They were really good. So again, compare with Mary Poppins Returns. They were totally on point. They're really good and very difficult because they're so young to get that right. Yeah. And they really did. The cast in general was very interesting. John Malkovich, who played an interesting role.
So in summary, you're giving it a what rating?
I'm giving it a 7.5. Yeah. So again, this was viewed in 2018. So it's registered, I think, just within the top 20 of the year. So very good. Highly recommended.
Our favourite of the Transformers.
Bumblebee. There is only one way to end this war. You must protect Earth and its people.
Take it down!
My back,
A strong start to this one. So again, it started off quite well. It looks really good. Very good lead performance, the lead actress. But then for me, it degenerates then and becomes quite farcical, and it reminded me of the Christmas Chronicles a lot, actually, in that eye-rollingly implausible, silly scenes aplenty. So by the time I got to the end of it, it's like, no, my thoughts on this film are very different to what I had halfway through it. So a game of two halves, definitely, for me in this one.
What's the narrative of it?
Bumblebee is quite a young, impressionable transformer, it seems, but quite endearing, and strikes up this wonderful relationship with lead actress who, and again, there were some really farcical scenes in this where Bumblebee goes into their house. He had been hanging out in the garage with her for most of the time, but when she's away, he goes into the house and he utterly demolishes it, razes it to the ground. The parents come home. I mean, you'd be absolutely devastated if your house that you've been living in for decades has been destroyed. Yet the lead actress was like, "Oh, I can't believe you're acting this way," or, "You know, you're so unfair." It's like, it degenerated so badly that I would give it a maybe 4.5 out of 10. Wouldn't recommend it in particular.
Let's sum up. Mary Poppins Returns.
All about Emily Blunt's amazing performance in it. Some beautiful visuals, great song and dance, good family film, slightly let down by the rest of the cast, but overall very good, 7.5.
Oh, brilliant. Netflix's Bird Box.
Cult film already. It's got the globe talking, and with good reason. It really excites and causes great tension to people watching it, the like of which hasn't been seen in years. There are a number of plot holes, certainly, but all forgivable given that it's all about the tension. 7.5 out of 10.
Bumblebee.
Very good start. Great visuals. Then it degenerates. The plot becomes very farcical and loses it for me. But overall, I'd give it 4.5. Just about watchable.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.